a Nobody's Project production. Let's go back to 1985. If you weren't alive then, bring a parent or an older relative or friend with you on this little journey. Take yourself back to 1985 and take in the social scenery, the lifestyle, and importantly, how you're associated with those closest to you, those you listened to, those you watched, or those you read. Make a cross-section, a snapshot of your social circle and the society around you back then. Include the media, politicians, community groups, and prominent local community members and leaders that influenced you. Ponder how you and those closest to you felt about these people you associated with, either directly as in your community and broader family groups, or indirectly like media personalities, journalists, politicians, and celebrities. Now, let's go back to the future. How do you feel about a similar cross-section of today's society? Do you trust them? Can you read or watch the news without checking the sources to see how inaccurate or biased it may be? Do you trust your politicians? Can you trust your teachers, your priests, or sports coaches? Look at the stats. It's safer now than in most times throughout history. Back in 1985, did we trust our society more then than we should have? Do we trust people in our society now less than we should? That would make for a better conversation. With the introduction over the last few decades of the internet, social media, and more recently AI platforms, the lack of accountability people now have has enormously impacted on how we behave compared to how we would have behaved socially back in 1985, with almost no ability at all to be anonymous. Has our accountability and responsibility been eroded with these new technologies? How can this not affect us all socially? With many areas of the internet, we can share our darker side and express our pathological instincts anonymously, and in many cases without any fear of recourse, and we can now do this globally. We have seen a rise in antisocial groups, an activity that the anonymous internet has facilitated since the 90s. But more importantly for this project, people have less and less need to mature and become responsible adults. They can make a career on the internet without needing to be considerate of others and accountable for their actions. The algorithms support these voices as they push the user to click more, follow the outrage, stay consumed so we can show you more ads and make more money. Going back to 1985 once more, our access to global news was limited to a page or two deep inside the newspaper or later in the news hour. We could count our news sources on one hand. We trusted them and they were loyal to the trust we had in them. News and reporting standards these days have been given the runaround. We now have more access to information without guidelines, standards, or natural restrictions. We create information silos where we lose a healthy cross-section of news that was available to us on the radio, television, or newspaper back in the pre-internet era. How can our society and those within it not be affected by 40 years of enormous change? So to answer Marty McFly's question at the end of Back to the Future...
Wait a minute, Doc, what are you talking about? What happens to us in the future? What, do we become assholes or something?
Yes, Marty. Quite possibly. Yes, we do. Too Many Arseholes is a social project looking at the rise of pathological behaviours in our society and the erosion of social trust, creating a better conversation around why this is, and finding a way forward to a greater humanity. This podcast is also part of a larger social project that we want you, the listener, to join in on. Key to this project is bringing together threads from many academic disciplines to create a body of knowledge we can develop with you to help us all with having better conversations around these pathological behaviours in our personal and social circles. Thanks for joining us today for Season 1, Episode 4 of Too Many Arseholes. In today's episode, we attempt to make the assertion, why are there too many arseholes? We look a bit closer at social trust and the complications that arise from how you prioritise different levels of trust. We then take a long walk through modern day's trust associations from personal through to global, highlighting why, in today's world, we are submitting to you that there are just too many arseholes making too many decisions that are serving their hyper-capitalist agendas with drastic effects on humanity. And so thanks for joining us and coming along on this journey of reflection and discovery as we attempt to unpack and better understand why there's just too many arseholes. To make the case for why there's too many arseholes, unfortunately data and statistics are not going to be available to the level required to make a strong case. So if you're still recovering from episode 2, then breathe easy, as we are not about to throw more numbers at you. We could drudge up crime numbers, corruption indicators, quality of life indexes, access to Medicare and support data, but this case is much more anecdotal. It's much more in the zeitgeist. We probably don't have good baseline data to start with anyway. That's why we started this episode with Marty McFly. Why not? Our case doesn't revolve around a simple "it was better back then" argument. Better back when, exactly? Yes, Gen Xers probably do look back at the 80s as a time of innocence and strong social trust. But you were all kids back then. Perspective will always greatly contribute to the required nuances to have this better conversation. It certainly wasn't better during the World Wars and the subsequent conflicts and Cold War. There are also many nations that haven't had strong social cohesion over the last century or more. Disrupting social cohesion was one of the conquerors/colonizers' favourite strategies. So to make the case, we need to increase our understanding of what social trust is and then work our way through the layers of social trust and understand more accurately why we propose there's just too many arseholes. Social trust is the social rulebook that each society lives by. It includes, but is not limited to, the laws of the land, the rules, the etiquette, manners, and other social structures that define acceptable community behaviour. But there's also unwritten rules. You shouldn't lie, cheat, betray, or ignore others, just to name a few basic untrustworthy behaviours. If you meet someone and you say hi, you'd expect them to say hi back. If you put your hand out for a handshake, a fist pump, or a casual wave, if they don't respond in kind, then a social norm, a trusted behaviour, albeit a small one, is broken. An acknowledgement, a polite thank you. It's all these formally and informally agreed behaviours that make up a society that is stable, predictable, and safe. Living in a trustworthy community is a primal need for human beings, and one that creates a lot of stress and anxiety when it is absent. Behaving in a socially trustworthy way builds our social cohesion. Our societies couldn't have evolved to include complex leadership structures, integrated law and order institutions, advanced knowledge gathering and application capabilities, and other hallmarks of our current societies without social cohesion. We couldn't and wouldn't be who we are without it. Trust is such a fluid word. It means to have confidence in someone, to believe that somebody is good, sincere, and honest. It also means to believe that something is true or correct, or that you can rely on it and also hope and expect that something is true. Ask someone how they define trust and you'll get a range of answers, most likely with clarifying questions and also some scenarios to help illustrate their understanding. As part of defining trust, you often start bumping into trust conflicts, where the trusted associations you have come in conflict with one another. Think of a moral conflict between your partner and your parents as a good example. So loosely, we can start to break our social trust into different groups to hopefully help understand trust priorities and also better understand social trust, how it conflicts at times, and how society generally guides you through this by prioritising your different associations. As we saw when we went through our 300,000-year history, our earliest advancements in social trust came in the home and the local community groups. As our world expanded towards globalisation, we as a species were asked to expand our ability to indirectly trust people further and further away. But essentially, it all started at home and in the community. We wouldn't have been able to evolve our social capabilities otherwise. So it's in our home that's a good place to start. A place where social trust is less evident but very present is at home. This is because there are many other more important levels of trust that also exist within the home. There is often a marriage, parents and guardianships, relations, and often alternatively, housemates. These can be described as personal trusts. Personal associations are those associations you have that have a level of dependency that is core to who you are. At home, as well as social trust, we also have expectations of security, tidiness, safety, and personal and community spaces. These expectations are intrinsic to your personal sense of comfort and ease. Your personal associations are primary to our social trust priorities. You always put your family first, unless you don't for some reason. Included in your home could be a partner and children. A long-term committed relationship like a marriage comes with a whole range of decisions and behavioural expectations. Marriage is very similar across the planet, cultures, and religions. Key themes in marriage expectations between partners are the managing of resources, accountability for health, safety and security, intimacy and companionship, and child rearing responsibilities. The generational link that will be a focus of this project is the importance of raising healthy, happy, socially responsible young adults. It's when parents are not able to provide a safe, stable, and socially healthy environment for a child that we see the generational trauma cycle kick over to the next generation. How a person grows up is not either nature or nurture factors, but both. It's the genes provided by the biological parents that decide your socially responsible potential, but it's then the environment you were born and raised in that influences how your neurons develop structurally, and then how you utilize them as you mature into an adult. It's these personal associations that create the most anxiety when they are not trustworthy associations, and they have been increasingly put under more and more pressure with the increase in housing and cost of living. With these extra financial burdens, families are having to have both parents working. Children are having less time in their family environment to build those important bonds and behaviours. Across Western nations, the transition from the 70s to now has been quite extensive, where prior to then, around 40% of households had dual incomes. This percentage then sharply increased over the next 50 years to around 70% of households having dual incomes. This change correlates with the shifts we have seen from capitalism to hyper-capitalism and with the introduction of digital technologies. It's in the knock-on effects that is where we see the impacts on people at home. There is less time for anything, and what time is left is increasingly taken up with the internet, streaming and TV, gaming, and social media. Families lose time to connect, to bond, to build critical awareness behaviours and social capabilities. Although divorce rates have dropped since the 90s, marriage stress has increased, but these numbers can't reflect the enormous challenges partnerships or marriages have had to increasingly take on and also find time to keep their connections strong and ensure the dependents are happy, healthy, and safe. Outside of the home, there are also personal associations with grandparents, relatives, and friends that are core to your being. Similar to the responsibilities of marriage and parenting, we include relatives through the bonds of blood in our support and social circles. Similarly are our friends. Friendship as a social structure does not come with a manual or a strict set of expectations. Unlike marriages or bonds of blood, which have a legal implication, friendships are unique in how we establish them, maintain them, and then the grief we experience when they are broken or lost. But relatives and friends, just like all other personal associations you have, are feeling the pressure of this time-poor and expensive society we now live in. With time at home and funds to spend on your family tightening, where exactly do friends and family fit in? For new parents, relying on family and friends to drop in and support has also been hit in this time-poor culture. As more and more socialising is done between friends and family online, that human touch, those social cues of being in the presence of others, these interactions that are crucial to being human, are being missed. The more we rely on technology to communicate, the less real connections we are having. That can't be good for society. No wonder we have this epidemic of loneliness. And we haven't even started to explore the impact social media has had on relationships and friendships. We'll leave that conversation for another episode. A distinct association you have that is part personal and part community is your association with your work and those you work with. It's about a third of your waking hours for a full-time job. By working for an organisation, you are trusting them to provide you with a safe, fair, productive and progressive experience, as well as the appropriate payments for your efforts. It is supposed to be a fair and equal quid pro quo arrangement. Your work association is also prioritised high in your social trust priorities, usually just behind family and home. Your employment stability impacts greatly on your anxiety level. For most people, there is little to no safety net should the rug be pulled out from under you. It's in the workplaces being driven by the profits they make and not the products or services they provide that we have seen a sharp rise in pathological management practices. Salespeople and sales practices got prioritised more and more over the last century. The annual profit increase became an expectation, not a target. Management and leadership practices have changed too. No longer are the experienced engineers and other professionals moved into director roles. Those roles are filled with MBAs and other business management trained people. Managing up now is way more important than managing down. This has seen a shift from career-long employment to short-term gigs and side hustles becoming a staple to fund a 21st century lifestyle. And now AI has been intentionally flooded across the internet, creating immense uncertainty for future employment prospects. And it's in these inner circles that a better conversation needs to start. Are there too many arseholes because socially it is a difficult conversation to have? This hyper-capitalist world promotes being an arsehole as a good thing, but that's antithetical to humanity. Discussing mental health has been a cultural taboo in the Western nations over recent centuries. This has been personified by the British stiff upper lip. Can we look at other cultures and languages for better words to help fill this conversational gap? Can we also look at the past because there is no well-known references or easily understood literature on pathological behaviours as opposed to pathological people? Are there too many arseholes because it's personally confronting to understand the concept of pathological behaviours and associations? To better understand pathological behaviours, you will need to better understand your own past, and it will include a deeper understanding of yourself. That is always going to be confronting for anyone, but ultimately, it will be personally beneficial. Once you step out of your house, you start beginning to associate with your community. It would be fairly accurate to say that you knew most of your neighbours 4 to 5 decades ago. Not many people were living in high-density vertical living back then as compared to now. Do you know all your neighbours? Like, really know them, not just their names? The community heartbeat that has been part of human civilization has weakened. Larger cities with sprawling suburban landscapes were awash with sports, festivals and community events. A major impact on running events has been public liability insurance and the litigious world we now live in, which has gutted a lot of small to medium-sized gatherings. Music festivals, which have been such a popular community activity, are now slowly going away due to increased risk, rising costs and insurance, and less people with extra cash to be able to buy tickets. The time parents and guardians have to volunteer at school and in the community is now limited, and this knock-on effect again hits the children. How strong is your local community these days? The local doctor is now probably part of a franchise, and the 15 minutes you get to see them often ends in band-aid medication. The medical experience has become more transactional and less human. This has coincided with amazing medical achievements, but to heal a human, you need to be humane, which is a lesson we are still slowly learning. And humanity is often left at the door of our aged care homes. Our retired elderly have always been a rich contributor to our communities. They are our past and they are our present. Unfortunately, in this hyper-capitalist 21st century, society does not see them as part of our future. Our vulnerable elderly are being taken advantage of more and more. They gave us our society, and we're shitting on them in their later years, when we should be making them feel valued, loved, and safe. It's our sports and leisure that still keeps our community heartbeat going strong. From fishing off the jetty to your local football club, creative and performative activities to swimming, running, and riding. There's so much good found in these parts of our community to pick holes in them. But they are feeling the financial stresses of this hyper-capitalist world. We need to do more to make sure our access to sports and leisure is not commodified too much. Has there been a shift towards winning as opposed to participation? There's definitely been a counter-swing in some communities, where we now see scores not tallied and ladders not kept in some lower age groups. What is the right way to approach this? In younger age groups, is winning and losing a good or bad life lesson? What are we trying to achieve with this counter-swing to the norms? Your community rounds out the 3 main social trust priorities you handle on a daily basis. It is quite normal, if that's the right word to use, for an adult to put their family first, just in front of their work and then their community. It's when these direct associations start being prioritised behind more indirect associations, like social associations, national associations, and global associations, that we see social cohesion's seams start to split and dissatisfaction and conflict start to pull our primary associations apart. And it's out and about in public that we have also seen changes in our societies. A polite nod or a hi was expected when you entered a store or premise not so long ago. Today you often get ignored walking into a store, or on the flip side, welcoming and attentive staff are brushed off if they even attempt to approach a customer to offer help. The local hardware store is now a national franchise. The local cinemas are also the same. That general community cohesion is being diluted through national business domination that squeezed out the local businesses and homogenised our shopping precincts. Instead of offering help if there's a public incident, many people now pull out their phones. Public nuisance videos have become viral internet hits, and the stress and anxiety of just being out of your house is turning people towards staying safe at home and binging the latest series or doom scrolling the evening away. Crime levels have generally fallen over the last half century thanks to removal of tetraethyl lead from our air. But our access to "if it bleeds, it leads" reporting has impacted our sense of public safety. The commodification and commercialisation of news has shifted from what our journalists and editors thought we should know to what got the highest ratings last week, or the most views and shares. And in a hyper-capitalist world, that's more important because it sells ad spaces. All this change is because money is now more important than humanity. Local politics has been on the receiving end of the national polarisation. Instead of representing the people that voted them in, local politicians are having to toe the party line. Money and politics have never mixed, and if you think corruption, lobbying, or political favours don't drive a lot of government decisions, then have a closer look at reputable, independent reporting. This hyper-capitalist world has created businesses that are now bigger than nations. Profits and margins are driving government's priorities away from the people they should be representing. Of all the civil structures we have, law and order is the most clearly defined, unambiguous set of rules we follow. It could be called the criminal justice system if it wasn't so unjust. Local community offenders can get years in prison, while a wealthy white-collar criminal that impacts on thousands to millions of people can afford to delay their prosecution, fight with the best lawyers money can buy, and often not see the justice they should be dealt. Legal representation is now a user pay system which leans heavily on the side of the wealthy. Our legal systems, some of the oldest institutions in our countries, can't keep up with the rate of change over the last century, and there's no indication they will catch up with this increasingly faster social change. These new political and law and order shifts create a world of uncertainty for our kids. And that uncertainty is also tainted with the planet's environmental crisis, political instability, and a world economic network that's so tightly wound up that a crisis in any part of the world can have ripple effects anywhere else. Thanks, COVID. Our children need guidance to mature into this new world, and their traditional rites of passage are both on the decline and struggling to keep up with our digital evolution. What do our children need in this 21st century world to thrive as young adults? That is an important, better conversation to have with each other. In 2020, COVID raced across the planet, putting many nations into forced lockdown and other virus-spreading mitigating strategies. Using the analogy that someone is at their best when given a real challenge, our nations were challenged and failed, and their responses didn't unite us, they divided us. The global disruption that is social media continues to impact nations and polarise politics. It has brought distrust to our institutions and national services and divided our communities. Elections aren't community-building exercises anymore. They are touted as a fight to the death. The hyper-capitalist food industry crammed inflation, shrinkflation, skimpflation, and excuseflation all together. In our thirst for new things, the food industry drags us further away from the food we need to eat to have healthy brains. And our ability to produce food has been taken from the small to medium farm to the large-scale global food conglomerates, gutting our local communities, putting more stress on supply lines, and changing the actual food we eat through chemical additives and treatments designed to make the food last longer. Not better, last longer. It's all about making profits at the cost of our health. Does that sound familiar? Farming and food production have a lot to answer for. And we are not talking about the local farmers. It is the large organisations. It is the squeeze on margins, the pollution, the destruction of natural land, the fertilisers, pesticides and chemicals that we now use to ensure greater yields. Our food networks are now beyond national links, and any global incident can put an entire product line off the supermarket shelves overnight. This has all greatly impacted our environment, our global home. Our attempt at tackling climate change nationally with the commitments made at the Paris Agreement in 2015 have not been met. We are seeing nations drop their agreements more and more due to economic pressure. Hypercapitalism strikes again. If we are going to be truly united as a planet, then it's our environment that will bring us together. You can't wreck one part of the planet without it affecting other parts. It's all we've got as a species. But the challenge is that nations own the environmental problem at the moment. It will only get worse unless we succeed in global initiatives. The illusion of coming out of World War II into a new global community has backflipped. Geopolitical tension is still one of the humanity's greatest challenges, and as we continue to grow our populations, the tensions can only increase. Continued growth cannot be sustained. Capitalism only works in a world of infinite resources. Our resources are not infinite. We are the only living thing that creates waste that cannot be recycled or reused, and this is having an enormous impact on our planet and our environment. We have caused the sixth mass extinction, the Holocene extinction. Many of our beloved air, land and sea creatures are gone or going soon. They won't come back. We are shrinking our planet's lungs, the rainforests, for more unsustainable farming, kicking the rainforest inhabitants out of their home and onto the proverbial streets. They do not survive. This hyper-capitalist vision has driven the tech world to feed our worst habits for their greatest profits. There's not a lot of love, consideration or support driving the algorithms. And we could keep going on and on about the instability of international trading networks and supply lines, precariousness of the profit-hungry global interlinked financial and insurance businesses, displaced people from tyrannical regimes that are driving mass migration, the industrial war machine that's pushing for somewhere, anywhere to make war, and of course we haven't really dug into the impacts of COVID just yet. Don't worry, we will. As a species, we have the ability to solve for all of these problems. We really do. But it won't make anyone big bucks. The resolution for the centuries of mass pollution, mass culling, mass extinction, and mass deforestation will come at a price one way or the other. We can do it now, or force our kids to have to pay the piper at some stage in the future. And so we finally get back around to the central topic at hand. Why do we think that there are too many arseholes as opposed to there being a few more arseholes than we would like, or not being too many arseholes that our society can't handle? This is not an argument that can be purely based on stats and data. We know that the types of crime and the rates of crime have steadily fallen across most Western countries since the 60s and 70s. We also know that divorce rates have stabilised since the 90s. So how do we put forward then that there are too many arseholes? Well, buckle in for this one. Often we have put forward that it always comes down to humanity, and it still does. The Oxford English Dictionary definitively states that humanity is the state or quality of being human. In most ethical traditions, membership of the human species is seen as conferring a unique moral status, so that human life is considered inherently and particularly valuable and worthy of protection. Humanity may be defined in terms of a unique capability to feel, reason, evoke emotional responses or form relationships, and it is displayed through compassion and/or benevolence. Let's say that again. Human life is inherently and particularly valuable and worthy of protection. Humanity. That's us. To not hold humanity at the center of all behaviors is like a cell in your body deciding not to form and not behave exactly the way it evolved to be. Unless it's of civil or social importance, to behave pathologically, even just a little bit, is not being aligned to this 300,000-year organism that has expanded across the planet and put itself on the edge of becoming a spacefaring species. When a cell behaves out of alignment with the body, it is identified by the immune system as a cancerous cell and destroyed. And it's when the cancer has bypassed the immune system or the immune system has started to fail that cancer spreads. Our inbuilt social trust, our laws, rules, policies, etiquette, manners, and behavioural expectations are our social standards and detection mechanisms against these cancerous pathological behaviours. Our penal system, fines and other civil restrictions are our social autoimmune systems at work. But areas like corporate, social media and AI are always ahead of our justice system and our regulations. This cancerous behaviour is outpacing our social defences. The human species has always had challenges with pathological people and pathological behaviours. It's not new. All cultures have their stories of when life was good and stable and when societies faltered. When humans cause these impacts, societal cohesion is being pulled apart and priorities are changed from the core things that make humans what they are, the humanity. But first at home, we try our best to raise healthy, community-minded young adults. And our community embraces and promotes those that are best placed to take on key societal roles we have. Our societies are the macro versions of our communities. Our nations and the world are all layers of these aligned behaviours, trusted norms, and implicit accepted standards of being part of humanity. And none of this is embodied by hyper-capitalism. None of this is primary to consumerism. None of this is evident in politics, the media, and social media. Those that have contributed to our current societies have not moderated the digital disruption of the last 50 years. They have not limited the expansion of gross wealth and the ensuring commodification of humans. They have not provided clean, healthy living. The cycle of sickness is now also a privatised profit arm. Why on earth is money driving healthcare systems? How did that happen? Our elderly are not humans anymore. If a human isn't an asset, it's a liability apparently. How inhumane is that reflection of our current societies? We scrape and pillage our resources and planet. David Attenborough, David Suzuki and others have dedicated their entire life's work to communicating this message, and yet the message doesn't get through. Why? Well, that's because we have too many arseholes in charge. There are too many arseholes making hyper-capitalist decisions on what we eat, how we pollute our environment, how we should get healthcare, how our elderly are treated, and how our children are educated. And we promote all this with resilient hyper-capitalist fervour. There are too many arseholes displaying pathological behaviours that are getting promoted in this hyper-capitalist world into decision-making positions. Money and lobbying in politics has distorted who we put in charge. Those in charge are not dedicating their time to leading us. They're spending their times chasing donations for their next election. There's no structure left to allow humane people, those our society designed best, to be the leaders of our future. Late-stage hyper-capitalists are grabbing all they can before it collapses. They are grabbing everything they can in front of our eyes, and all us humans stand here with no capability to call foul, no capability to identify and act on these inhumane decisions, nor to divert from this path towards potential disruption or collapse. We feel rudderless. Sane and humane people are not at the helm. But we will get through this. We will survive. We will adapt. And we will thrive again. But it robs us of our most important resource, our time. It will come at a huge cost, and more importantly, it will impact on our children. The generational trauma cycle will kick over once again if we don't confront these challenges now, and that's affecting humanity's future. It's worth talking about, so please, join in the conversation. Thanks again for taking the time to listen in. In today's episode, we made a case for how hypercapitalism and profit-seeking is pulling our humanity and social trust apart. It's a big argument to make in this short-form podcast, so we will dive back into key themes over upcoming episodes. Also, please know the irony is not lost on us that we are wanting to have better conversations, and yet are delivering monologues for the first part of Season 1. This is intentional as we lay the foundations of this social project's themes. Too Many Arseholes is researched, written and produced by Nobody's Project. To put this series together, we have drawn on many sources, publications, books and podcasts. Throughout this series, we will ask you to go and read or listen to an article, book or podcast to accompany our episodes. Check out our show notes for recommendations for upcoming episodes and also for our sources. It is important that we acknowledge and promote the people and the work they have published that has inspired this project. And finally, we are always keen to hear from you. Do you have an experience, idea or insight that you'd love to share with the project? If so, please send an email to contactus@toomanyarseholes.com. Visit our social media pages and please, feel free to get in contact and have a better conversation with us. To support the project, you can go to our Patreon page where you can get more information on the project and support us. You can also join our Patreon group and get early and ad-free episodes as well as other benefits. You can also like, subscribe and review the podcast to help spread the conversation. And the best way to support us is to share the podcast with your family, friends, and colleagues so you can have a better conversation with them. Until we catch up again, give a shit about our planet and just please, don't be an arsehole.